is the 2025 Yamaha Tmax. That is quite a mouthful, and this is the 560cc version, and this is the top of the line in terms of electronics, power, the whole bells and whistles. And like they say, I'm tied in the wool motorcyclist. I've done 77 countries on motorcycles, mostly high capacity motorcycles. And for the first time in my life, I am actually riding and shooting and reviewing, you can say, a scooter. But the irony is that the word scooter itself is derived from the word scoot, which means swift, nimble. When you are riding a scooter, especially for men, it means that you are not man enough. In fact, here is what ChatGPT said when I asked, why do you think riding a scooter is looked down upon by motorcyclists? Well, when I first came to Australia, where I'm right now, 20 years ago, there was this guy who was riding GS 1200, I think, and he said, I wouldn't be seen dead riding on one of those. And actually, I had borrowed a scooter because I was going to do a big trip, my first big trip out of India, 22,000 kilometers on a 650cc motorcycle. So I had a scooter for a couple of days. This is how males, quote unquote, have been conditioned. Scooters are supposed to be slow, they are supposed to be boring, they are supposed to be easy to ride. I'm not sure what to say about that because I'm one of them. But like many motorcyclists, I was reading about this online as well. It was a lot of fun in the twisties. It was a lot of fun in the traffic, of course.
This is a great handler. I mean, the wheelbase is quite long. It does feel like the Goldwing. Oh yeah, I'm enjoying this. What a beautiful handler.
And it's essentially going to be a lot more practical, along with being fun, in countries which are very cold. It is used in many places in Europe. In fact, here's a fun fact. This scooter was the first scooter which was termed as a mega scooter or the max scooter back in 2000 when Yamaha made this, and they made this for the European market because scooters were not fast enough to go on the autostrada, especially in Italy and France. So they decided to make a scooter which was fast enough. And this, the latest iteration over here, can go up to 180 kilometers an hour, which is enough also to be respectable on the autobahn, where there is no speed limit. Talking about Tmax over here, this actually defined, like I said, the mega scooter category. And after that, a lot of companies started coming up with scooters. In fact, a few companies already had big scooters, but nothing like this. It reminded me of the Goldwing. It reminded me of the K1600 GTL. All of those are motorcycles. And K1600 GTL has 6 cylinders, 1600cc. Despite that, it just goes to 200 kilometers an hour. Of course, it's electronically limited. But when you compare that with this, a 560cc scooter, which can go 180 kilometers an hour, I mean, the math is pretty clear. This is a very capable one. And, if you look at the Goldwing, sort of looks like this, but of course, it's not a step through. In fact, forget about the Goldwing being a step through. This also is definitely not a step through because how can you step through this? It's raised enough. In fact, if you want to get on it, I actually get on this scooter like this. So how come this is just a scooter? It's not. The aluminum frame, the swing arm, everything, it shouts a motorcycle. This big exhaust shouts a motorcycle. The upside down forks shout a motorcycle. These rotors, and I believe the calipers as well, they have been taken from the Yamaha R1, I think 2008, if I'm not wrong. And this is not a joke. These tires are meaty enough. There's a disc in the back, adjustable suspensions. What else do you need to categorize is this as not a scooter? Well, if it is not a scooter, then what is it? I can say probably this is a crossover, but not exactly like the Honda XADV. This is definitely in the scooter category, if you have to put it. but it is much more than that. Basically, it's a belt drive. The engine is sort of in the middle and low, giving it a good center of gravity like a motorcycle. In fact, when I was taking the turns, it just felt like a Goldwing.
Man, this is feeling really planted here. It's inspiring too much confidence for my liking. I just don't want to fall.
The seat is amazing. They have put a lumbar support over here in the latest model just to make it more comfortable. The looks, it looks beautiful from the front. If you zoom in close enough, you just want anyone to guess. They will not be able to guess this is a scooter unless until they have seen it before, of course. This is 562cc parallel twin, but there is a twist to it. It also has a dummy opposing piston, which actually acts like a balancer to cancel out all the vibrations and make the overall experience smoother. I don't know of any other two-wheeler that this is in. It's kind of like the counter-rotating crankshaft. In fact, talking about the exhaust, you can actually get a full system Acro power pitch with this. Beat that, and I don't know how it will sound, but definitely it's not going to sound anything like a scooter right now because it's actually an automatic twist and go. It does give you those scooter vibes, but once you ring the throttle, it just picks up speed like anyone's business. You've got cornering ABS, you've got traction control, you've got two modes. One is a sports mode, one is a T mode. The dash is 7 inches full color TFT. You've got adjustable windscreen, electronically adjustable here. You've got Bluetooth, you can connect it to your phone. You can download the Garmin app, and you can also subscribe to them to get an entire full screen map experience on the scooter here. Overall, I think this scooter is for someone who is enthusiast for two wheels, who is definitely got enough money, because this here in Australia is around 22,000 Australian dollars, which you get a leader class naked motorcycle in that almost. This is not a cheap scooter anywhere in the world. Everything which is being used here is premium as they go. The iconic boomerang here on the side, Yamaha logo is there. It is amazing. So looks, I'd say it's right up there. It's 47 odd horsepower and it is achieved at 7,000 RPM. So it's not that low in RPM, it's not that high RPM, just the right kind of RPM where you would actually feel the motor, it's revving up, and you probably feel it more being like a sports bike rather than a scooter. Braking is also amazing, like I said, because it's got dual disc up front, one at the back.
So if you press the rear brake, apparently that's a link brake. It will also brake the front a little bit. I have to check on that. One of them is a link brake. Ideally it should be the front brake which should be linked to the rear, not the other way around.
It really shows when you do panic braking and stuff like that. Braking in the corners is not really recommended, but since it has cornering ABS, you can in panic situations, but definitely if you're going fast, don't try that.
I'm really enjoying this.
Well, if someone asks you why have you got this, don't you have the balls to ride a motorcycle? Well, you actually tell them, number one, this costs a bomb. You can get most fast naked motorcycles or even super sport motorcycles in the price of this. Second, ask them to ride this in the corners and challenge them. If they're such good riders, see how fast they can go on this. Third, let's try riding a bike, a big bike, a leader class bike, or whatever bike they have, on a rainy day, on a cold day, on a day which you want probably some groceries, some stuff, you want to do an office commute, and it's much more than that, and essentially, why don't you try it for yourself is all I can say, because I think the point is not to get converted. The point is to appreciate what these scooters can do and stop actually attaching them to a gender. For example, that is the reason why I'm here. This is the bra tree, like they're meant for women. Scooters are meant for women, that is something of a myth here, and this one is definitely true. But I feel that it is deep down rooted in the physiology of how actually women sit, especially when they are wearing skirts or frocks. They need step throughs, and that is so feminine that men have been groomed over generations not to be like them, not to be seen like them, and that's why I think they just don't like scooters. Well, it is not the case in many places around the world. For example, Vietnam, France, Italy, I saw a lot of men very well dressed, in office wear and all sort of dresses, going and using these maxi scooters. In fact, they're very popular. Like I said, this was made because of Europe. But that mindset needs to change. What I should say is that don't buy a scooter to prove that you are not of a particular mentality, or don't go for a motorcycle because you believe that a scooter is for females only or slow riders. Just buy what you think is right for your purpose and for the phase of life that you are in. This is no less than the Yamaha R1 off scooters. This probably could be the world's best mega scooter, not even maxi scooter, and I'm blown away. Signing off from Australia with the 2025 Yamaha Tmax Tmax.